this time, we have defense coordinator Zac Alley. Questions for Coach Alley. Greg?
So, Zach, I know it's way too early, but a general overview of the talent you have. Do you think you have the skills you want? Now you just got to put it together. What do you think of this defense?
Yeah, I think that we're certainly a lot more talented than we were in the spring. Just as a whole, I think that we've both developed players that were here that went through a great strength summer conditioning program. Obviously, we get to work with them now in the summer. That helps a lot. And then we brought in a lot of guys to compete. I think that no job has been earned yet. No job is safe, and everybody's kind of mixing in between the 1s, 2s, and 3s right now, and seeing who can help us and who can't.
How far could toughness and effort take you?
All the way. I think that that's the number one thing that we're trying to preach every day is the effort, running to the ball, getting to, making plays by outworking people. That's the backside guy that runs all the way across the field and punches the ball out going into the end zone that saves a touchdown, that changes a game. And we try and not only encourage that, reward that in practice, but show them examples, both from plays maybe I've been a part of or the NFL has done, and just always trying to encourage that mindset that every play, it's everything you've got till, from the snap of the ball to the end of the whistle.
When you evaluate a turnover, when you cause a turnover, how much of that is effort? How much of that is technique? Break that down for me.
It's probably 70% effort, and 30% technique. I mean, you obviously you have to try and strip the ball or put your hat on the ball or do something to cause a turnover. But a lot of times it's just the will to get there. Very rarely is it the first person on the scene that that punches the ball out or makes the play. It's usually the second guy or third guy in. If he gets hit, he's stumbling, and boom, there comes the ball. I think that's probably more realistic most time than it is the first guy that shows up.
I mean, I ask that because at least the last few years, turnovers have been a big issue with the defense. Has that been something you just keep drilling home to them that can change games?
Yeah, we have a standard every practice, and we keep track of it that, we're trying to get 3 or more turnovers a practice, starting from period 1 to whatever period we end on that day. And we kind of hold them accountable to that because, generally if you end up with 3+ turnovers a game throughout a season, you're probably going to be top 10 in the country come the end of it. So always trying to emphasize that. I think that's an important thing for our guys, and they feel that, while we're out there. They hear us talking about it, and, you win the turnover margins, number one, indicator of winning.
Has that happened the first 2 days?
Yeah, we've done it the first 2 days. So, once we put pads on, it gets a little popping, a little live. It'll get a little harder.
So if you're getting the turnovers and you're saying that effort's a big part of that, coach seems a little frustrated with practice today. What's your view defensively on how practice went today, the effort, the hard edginess of today's practice, and are you disappointed?
Average. I mean, it wasn't great. It wasn't the worst practice I've ever been a part of, but it wasn't the best by any means. I think we were solid today. Certain guys are consistently playing at that level, but the entire group's got to up that mindset and learn how we do what we do. And, not despite how hard you try through summer and being out there and all, it's just not the same as getting out and playing football and being at practice and the intensity level, the demand, the way we, do what we do. I think that we're still learning, and we've got a ways to go before we get there. Thankfully, we've got a lot of practices left.
Zach, how do you feel about your linebacker room?
Yeah, I think we got a lot of leaders, that are starting to emerge. Today was a lot better than the other day as far as communicating and talking. I tell them, man, it's on you. You don't get the check to the safety, like that's you. The D-line's lined up wrong, that's your fault. Like everything's on us, and that's the way that I want my guys to think. And so me, when being All-American, that's what they do. They fix everybody all the time. And so just preaching the intelligence and the understanding and all the things that go with being a great linebacker, to get the room to elevate as a whole. We've got really good competition right now. That helps. We brought in a couple guys. We had some freshmen come in as well. Even some of our walk-ons that we brought in are good players. So I think that's making everybody get better because they're watching the other guys, play well out there as well.
What are one or two of the characteristics, abilities, whatever, of all the new players coming in that you can't really, scout or learn about on film, on whatever? Are those things that are priorities in the first days of fall camp?
Yeah, I think, how they learn, you try your best in recruiting to figure that out. But, sometimes you recruit a guy for like 24 hours, and so, you may sign him early without knowing fully one way or the other, even though you've talked to people, you've called, done all those type of things with your due diligence. But, how they understand and then how they respond when things get hard. I think you get an opportunity when you're out at practice. Not everything's perfect. It's never going to be. And I want to see, who responds the right way and who needs to work on it.
Zac, you were a very young coach when you came across Rich Rodriguez. What did you think of this old school guy that was screaming a lot and whatever? What were your first impressions and what has stuck with it?
Yeah, I think the first thing I thought was just the standard of how everything goes every day. It's Coach Rod is really good at, there's only one way to do things if you want to win. And if you don't do that every single day, then that's not okay. And I think that's something that I noticed early on, with him that I've tried to keep myself, something I do, all the time, that there's only one way we're going to do things that I know from experience leads to success. And so this is how it's going to be done if you want to succeed. And I think he does a great job of just holding everyone to that standard. And I think he's masterful in how he goes about it, between the, sometimes the intensity between, yelling at guys and screaming and then loving them up too, and because everybody gets coached a little bit, individually, you would say, to what helps them learn, help them get developed. And, I think Coach Rod does a great job of balancing those things really well.
Were you ever a little standoffish at first?
We were always friends. I don't know. I might be okay. He keeps hiring me. From the jump, I think that he likes me. I like him, and I'm kind of mindseted the same way. I'm like that high freaking energy. I'm running all over the place, screaming, yelling, doing everything, and I think that similar coaching styles probably matches up.
He was unhappy with the effort today in practice. He made the point that when he was younger, he hated to pull weeds in the garden. And metaphorically, you have to pull weeds in football practice sometimes. How do you get your guys to pull weeds and do things they don't want to do?
Yeah, I think you've got to be on them. There's a standard of how we play, and this is how you got to do it. You hear me say that a lot. I tell them that all the time. There's one standard of how we do things, and it's you either achieve that standard or you don't every single play. And so we're straining to get to that consistency all the time, every time. And then I think just on and off the field, you want to elevate when it's done well, and you want to show and criticize when it's done poorly. And I don't want a guy to go through a practice and, I believe in telling them the truth. If it's bad, I'm going to tell you it's bad, and I'm going to call you out in front of everybody. If it's good, I'm going to tell you it's good, and everybody going to know it. Because there's only one way to win.
Coach, what are your thoughts when you see, and I'm sure the players notice this, when you have a couple of defensive players, DBs, that PFF is very, very high on? Do you bring it up to players like, hey, I know you got this recognition, but don't feel yourself too much, like we have a long way to go? Do you try to ignore it? Do you like when players get hyped to feel validation, or do you not like it?
Well, I'll tell you, I'm not sure one of them dudes could tell you their PFF grade, but they could all tell you the freaking EA Sports video game grade.
In there too.
Them dudes, yeah, they all know, and we laugh. I said, I'm gonna call them up and tell them to change the numbers on you right here. I know I think somebody did a skit the other day I saw it on social media where they had a fake EA Raider out at practice, and I laughed. It was hilarious.
You've had some defensive players
So.
who got solid ratings and that
Yeah, I think so. I have no idea, but I know they care. So I couldn't tell you. I don't bring it up to them because, however that third party sees them doesn't matter to me. That's not who makes decisions on who's playing, who's not, and how well you do. And I think they know that the NFL don't care either. They make their own evaluations the whole time. So I couldn't tell you one guy's rating on anything. Doesn't matter. I think that everybody's going to get challenged the same way, and the guys that perform the best get to play.
I understand it's too early for any player evaluation, but the linebacker group you're talking about, Wilson, Lewis, and Bogle, are three different guys, different experience levels, different levels of football, but they're all here. You brought them in, you targeted them for a reason. What do you see about those three that makes you think exactly what you said about the linebackers?
Yeah, I think just right off the jump, the athleticism, they move very well. They can run. I think that's a big deal. I don't know if you've ever seen John. He's big. He's a big dude. So that helps too. But until we put pads on, I don't really know. Because you got to see dudes hit people and knock them backwards and do all those things. But obviously they provide a lot of depth and a lot of playing experience. I mean, you got guys who've started multiple games at other schools that right or wrong, you hope that translates.
I guess that kind of was I was going to get at. What they do have in common is they've been around college football for a little bit in different scenarios. How much of that just kind of takes care of the big picture, like small pieces, I guess, but eventually just knowing how to play is going to help?
Yeah, I think it helps with everything, just like experience. Experience is valuable, and just the ease of knowing how to show up on time, dressed the right way, ready to go for practice. Just taking leadership roles because that's what they're used to. Knowing that when you come to the meeting room, you take your notes out, you write down what's on the board because it's important if Coach Alley wrote it on the board, and then that way when I come in, they don't have to write it down while I'm talking about it. Just little things that experience gives you that, I'm teaching freshmen, I'm teaching young guys that maybe they didn't have to do that, wherever they were before, to try and build habits that lead to success.
You were asked about how you mesh with that old school mentality, intensity that Ron brings. Did your time at Clemson with Dabo Sweeney, also kind of an old school intense coach, did that help prepare you for joining a staff like this? Yeah,
absolutely. I think so. I haven't really, I can be honest, I don't think I've been around a head coach that's not intense and wants to win and is aggressive every day. I mean, you got to be pretty competitive to do this and do it consistently at a high level. But obviously Coach Sweeney, Coach Venables, Coach Harsin, Coach Schmetting, Coach Bowden, I mean, you go down the list, I mean, all of them have had success in a lot of places, and I believe it's because of the intensity and the way that they go about what they do every day, and you try and emulate the things that help win.
The Big 12 has got a bunch of established veteran quarterbacks returning, and I know you're getting your team ready for the season, but in the back of your mind, are you thinking of ways to get your guys prepared to how you're going to have to affect these guys and the way you craft your defense and the way you design things?
I think we'll get to that when it comes. Right now we're just trying to get good at being us. We're working on West Virginia right now, and when we get to a game week or get closer, once we kind of go to scout teams and those type of things, we'll start to talk about those game plans and all. But I don't know when we play some of those quarterbacks, but I know they in game one, and I'm trying to win game one. So we'll focus on Robert Morris first, and then we'll kind of move on from there.
Is there anything that you look for in your players, or any signs that they can show you during those first few days, first couple weeks of fall camp, that show you they might be prepared to be a standout for you during the season?
Yeah, I think the consistency of performance is always what I look for. Everybody has good and bad days, but the guys that you want to play have more good days than bad days. So you're trying to look for in their first couple days of practice, like, man, who can put back good days together, that you can rely on to do what they're supposed to do, play at a high level, have a standard of performance that leads to success. So for me, it's only been 2 days and I ain't watched second set of film, so I'm not sure yet who that is, but over the first week or two, we'll probably get to see some more of that.
Zach, How much do you adjust your defensive scheme based on what you see out of your personnel, or does your personnel have to be able to run what you want to do?
We're going to do, I mean, a little of both. You know, I think there are things I know are successful that are hard on offenses that we want to do. But on the flip side, if we're not good at some of those things, then we're going to find ways to manipulate it so that our players are in positions to win and to be successful and good at whatever it is that they do. That's something that I think I honestly constantly think about, is how to put the right guys in the right positions to be successful within the schemes.
What he's saying, though, when you're putting your defense together, is it geared to what we do best or covering up the things that we don't do well?
Oh, that's a good question. Probably both.
Okay.
You know,
And you give up something to do something, right?
probably both. You know, I mean, if a guy's a good blitzer, I'm trying to blitz him. If he's not good in man, I'm not trying to, play him in man. And so if I can do both of those at the same time, I would love to do that.
I mean, as a defensive coach, you ever talk to a defensive coach, they always say, well, to do something, you have to give up someplace else. There's always give and take there. I mean, that's always in the back of your mind, right?
Yeah, I mean, there's always weaknesses to any call.
Yeah.
But you're trying to, if you're going to put stress on somebody, try and put it on the best players. Help, have those guys, game's on the line, who you want making the play to win the game, try and engineer that if you can.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thanks.
Thanks.